The 10th day of Sextilis, in the year of the consuls Trajan and Paetus, 101 of our era. The forests of Dacia are a living, breathing thing, heavy with the scent of pine and wet earth. A low-hanging mist clings to the valleys, muffling the world in a shroud of grey. Here, in the shadow of the Carpathians, the air does not feel Roman. It feels older, wilder. Perched on a rocky outcrop hidden by ferns and gnarled oaks, Zalmox the Tall watches the valley below. His knuckles are white where he grips the wooden shaft of his most prized possession, the falx. It is not a sword. A sword is a toy for boys and perfumed southerners. The falx is a tool of reaping, both of grain and of men. Its long, curved blade, sharpened on the inside edge, rises above his head like a metallic talon designed for one purpose, to reach over the top of a shield and cleave a man's skull in two. Below him, his comrades the Komatai, the long-haired ones, are similarly armed. They are a fearsome sight. Clad in leather and thick wool trousers, their faces framed by wild beards and flowing hair, they wear the wolf pelt headdresses that give them their spirit and their name to the Romans, the Wolfmen. They are not a legion, they are a storm, a force of nature born from these very mountains, loyal to their warrior king, Dicebulus. A murmur ripples through the watching warriors. It starts as a low rumble, then swells into gruff, confident laughter. Zalmox grins, his teeth flashing in the gloom. The source of their amusement is finally visible, slithering through the valley like a segmented metal serpent, the vanguard of a Roman legion. They look ridiculous, like beetles scuttling from a kicked-over log. From this height, their discipline looks like weakness, their uniformity like a lack of spirit. Zalmox points with his chin. "Look at their helmets," he scoffs to the man next to him, a burly warrior named Dragisa. "Like polished soup bowls. What good is that against a true blade? One swing, and we'll crack them open like nuts." Dragisa lets out a booming laugh. "And their swords. I've seen Dacian hunting knives longer than those toothpicks. Are they coming to stab us in the shins?" The mockery is earned, they believe. The Roman Galea, the standard imperial helmet, is a masterpiece of function, designed to deflect blows and protect the neck and face with its wide guards. But from a distance, it lacks the intimidating horns or crests of their own ancestral helms. It looks small, compact, unimpressive. And the Gladius Hispaniensis, the Roman short sword. To a man who wields a 5-foot-long falx, it is an absurdity. The Dacians fight with sweeping, powerful blows, using momentum and reach to shatter enemy formations. Their entire philosophy of war is built on individual prowess and overwhelming force. How could a man with a blade barely 2 feet long ever hope to stand against them? They have heard stories, of course. Tales of Roman stubbornness, of their ability to build fortified camps in a single night, of their strange siege engines. But stories are for the campfire. Here, now, in the forests of their ancestors, where every rock and stream is an ally, they see only a column of short men with short swords and foolishly small helmets. They see an army that has forgotten the art of the hero, trading it for the lockstep march of the slave. Their king, Dicebulus, has told them that the new emperor, Trajan, is different, that he is a true soldier. But what can one man do? He commands an army of insects. Zalmox feels the familiar fire in his veins, the call to battle that every Dacian warrior cherishes. They will let the Romans march deeper into the trap. They will let them come to the iron gates, to the narrow pass at Tapai. There, where the mountains squeeze the land into a bottleneck, the Romans' numbers will count for nothing. There, the soup bowl helmets will be shattered, and the falx will feast. The laughter echoes one last time through the mist, a sound of supreme, unshakable confidence. The Romans are marching to their graves, and they are too disciplined, too stupid to even realize it. Miles below, the rocky outcrop, within the belly of the metal serpent, Centurion Gaius Fulvius Macer of the 4th Legion Flavia Felix plants his hobnailed military sandals into the sucking mud. Each step is a deliberate, practiced motion, a testament to 1,000 miles marched on a dozen frontiers. The mist of this cursed land clings to his woolen cloak and beads on the horsehair crest of his transverse helmet, a symbol of his rank that makes him an obvious target. He welcomes it. A centurion who hides is no centurion at all. Oh. His gaze is fixed not on the path ahead, but on the oppressive walls of green that flank the column. These are not the gentle, rolling hills of Italia or the open plains of Pannonia. This is a primordial forest, dark and watchful. The trees are giants, their branches interlocking overhead to form a suffocating canopy that filters the sunlight into a weak, watery gray. He can feel the eyes on them. He doesn't need to see the Dacian warriors. He feels their presence in the sudden silence of the birds, in the way the wind whispers through the leaves with a sound almost like a human voice. Around him is the sound of the legion, the rhythmic tramp of 8,000 feet, the soft creak of leather carriages, the jingle of mess kits, and the steady metallic clank of the scutum bumping against the segmented plates of Lorica segmentata. To the wolfmen watching from the hills, it might sound clumsy. To Macer, it is the symphony of Roman power. It is the sound of order imposing itself upon chaos. He glances at the men of his century. Young Titus, barely 18, his knuckles white on the grip of his pilum, his eyes wide and constantly scanning the trees. Beside him, the veteran Lucius, a man whose face is a roadmap of old scars, marches with an almost bored indifference, his movements economical and precise. He's seen worse than this on the Rhine. They are a unit, a machine of 80 parts. Their lives depend not on their individual fury, but on their absolute trust in the man to their left and the man to their right. Macer taps the side of his own Galea. A soup bowl? He remembers a battle near the Danube years ago when a German axe swung with monstrous force had skidded off that very curve, the impact jarring his teeth but leaving his skull intact. The bowl shape was designed to turn a killing blow into a glancing one. And the short sword? He rests a hand on the pommel of his Gladius, nestled high on his right hip for a quick, efficient draw. A toothpick? He'd seen what it could do in the press of a shield wall. It was not a dueling weapon. It was an instrument for murder. Its purpose was not to slash, but to thrust, to find the gaps in armor, to slide between ribs, to punch through a throat. It was a butcher's tool for a butcher's work, and there was no finer tool ever forged. The Dacians fought for glory. They sought the heroic single combat. Romans fought to win. Glory was a consequence, not a goal. The goal was the methodical destruction of the enemy's ability to resist. First, the pila. The heavy javelins would disrupt their charge and render their shields useless. Then, the wall of shields, the testudo in a defensive posture, the interlocking line in an advance. And once the enemy broke against that wall, the real work began. In the crush of bodies, where a long falx becomes a clumsy, awkward liability, the short, sharp Gladius becomes king. A quick step forward, a punch with the shield's boss to create an opening, and a single, brutal thrust. No wasted energy. No sweeping arcs. Just cold, efficient killing over and over again. Ahead, the valley narrows. The path is being squeezed by the encroaching mountains. Tapai, the iron gates. Macer can see the Optio moving down the line, relaying orders. The pace slows. The ranks tighten. The men subtly shift their grip on their shields. The symphony changes its tune. The casual sound of the march is replaced by a low, simmering hum of anticipation. They are not walking into a trap. They are marching to an appointment, a time and place chosen by the enemy. But the terms of the engagement will be Roman. The wolfmen believe the mountains are their allies. Macer knows better. The only ally a soldier needs is the disciplined man standing beside him. The trap is sprung not with a signal, but with a sound. It is a noise that seems to uncoil from the very soul of the earth. A deep, guttural, terrifying blast that echoes off the mountainsides. It is the sound of the Carnix, the Dacian war horn. Its bronze head, shaped like a monstrous boar with its mouth agape, seems to scream a promise of bloodshed across the valley. More horns join the first, a chorus of beasts baying for blood, and with it comes a human roar, a wave of pure, unadulterated fury. From the wooded slopes, the Comatai descend. They do not march. They pour down like a landslide, a chaotic torrent of wolf pelts, iron, and righteous anger. Zalmox the Tall is at the forefront, his great falx held high, the polished blade catching what little light penetrates the canopy. He feels invincible, a demigod of the forest. The Romans below have halted, their neat little lines suddenly looking fragile, static. He sees them forming their ridiculous turtle shell, the testudo, as stones and arrows begin to rain down from the heights. "See?" he bellows to Drigissa, who runs beside him, his own falx thirsting for Roman steel. "They hide. They cower like tortoises. We will crack them open." The first wave of Dacians hits the Roman line, but they do not hit a line of men. They hit a wall, a solid, unyielding barrier of curved, rectangular wood and iron. The Roman scuta, overlapped and braced, absorbed the initial impact with a deafening thud. The front rank of legionaries kneels, their shields angled upwards, while the second rank stands, their shields covering the men in front. It is a seamless, living fortress. Zalmox reaches the line, his momentum carrying him into a brutal collision with the shield wall. He swings his falx in a great cleaving arc, aiming for the helmet of a legionary he can barely see peeking over the top. The sound is a horrifying shriek of metal on metal. The falx, designed to hook and pull, bites deep into the curved top edge of the scutum, but the blow is deflected. The legionary stumbles back a half step, the shock of the impact running up his arm, but the line holds. This is not the fight the Dacians expected. They cannot get a clean swing. Their long faxes are too unwieldy in the crush. They are designed for reach and power, but here, pressed body to body against the shield wall, there is no room to maneuver. For every blow that lands and splits a shield, or rarely glances off a helmet, a dozen more are fouled, their momentum wasted against the immovable object of Roman discipline. Then, from the Roman ranks, comes another sound. Not the beastly roar of the Carnix, but the sharp, piercing call of the Cornu, the Roman brass horn, followed by a shouted command that ripples down the line. Pila iasit. As one, the second rank of legionaries brings their pila forward. These are not simple throwing spears. They are masterpieces of military engineering. With a synchronized heave, hundreds of heavy javelins arc into the sky. They do not fly far, but they don't need to. They descend into the packed ranks of the charging Dacians. The hardened iron points punch through wooden shields and leather armor, but their true genius lies in their soft iron shank. Upon impact, the shank bends, making the pilum impossible to pull out and rendering the shield it is stuck in a useless, heavy encumbrance. Zalmox sees warriors around him fall, screaming or curse as they are forced to discard their shields, now trailing 7 feet of bent iron and wood. The charge falters. The wave has not broken the wall. It has been broken by it. The Dacian fury, so potent from a distance, is being systematically dismantled by Roman engineering and cohesion. The laughter is gone from Zalmox's throat, replaced by a burning frustration. He has swung his blade twice and has yet to taste blood. He shoves forward, screaming a challenge, trying to find a gap, any weakness in the wall of shields, and then the wall opens. The command was not a retreat. It was an invitation. Centurion Macer, his voice raw, bellowed, "Gladius stringite! Ad pugnum! Draw swords! To the fight!" The front rank of the legion did not fall back. Instead, in a movement drilled into them 1,000 times on the sun-baked parade grounds of Moesia, they shifted. With a guttural heave, they punched forward with their shields. The heavy iron boss in the center of the scutum slammed into Dacian chests and faces, creating not a retreat but a momentary space. A gasp, a flinch, a half-second of stunned recoil, and in that half-second, the world changed for Zalmox the Tall. A gap opened directly in front of him. The legionary whose shield he had struck took a single, disciplined step back, perfectly synchronized with the men beside him. For a fleeting instant, Zalmox saw his chance. He raised his falx, ready for the killing blow that would split the Roman's soup bowl helmet. He never saw the Gladius. It didn't flash or swing. It appeared. From beneath the wall of shields, a low, brutally efficient thrust. The legionary Titus, the young recruit, did not aim for the head or the chest. He followed his training. He aimed for the unarmored lower torso. The 20-inch blade slid into Zelmox's gut, just below the ribs, with a sickening wet punch. The meticulously crafted point, designed for exactly this, severed muscle and organs with chilling precision. Zelmox's breath left him in a pained grunt. His great swing faltered, the heavy falx suddenly feeling like a ton of lead. The strength vanished from his arms. He looked down, his mind refusing to process the sight of the polished wooden hilt protruding from his stomach. The Roman who had stabbed him was already gone, his shield locked back into place as if a door had slammed shut. All around him, the same horrific, intimate ballet was unfolding. The Dacian charge had become a slaughterhouse. Dragisa, his friend, swung his falx wildly, trying to create room, but a legionary to his right used his scutum to shove Dragisa's own shield aside, exposing his side. A second Roman stepping into the breach drove his Gladius into Dragisa's exposed armpit, a killing blow that severed the great arteries there. Dragisa fell, his dying roar lost in the cacophony. The mockery of the Roman weapons died on Dacian lips, replaced by screams of agony and disbelief. The short sword wasn't for dueling. It was for killing in a crowd. It was a piston of death in the human machine of the legion. In the tight press of bodies, the falx was useless. To swing it, a warrior needed space, but the Romans gave them none. The shield wall was a meat grinder, deliberately drawing them in, absorbing their momentum, and then methodically disemboweling them through surgical openings. The polished helmets were not for show. They were part of a system that protected the head, while the legionary's eyes focused on the target area, the torso, the groin, the legs. Everything about the Roman soldier was brutally practical. His helmet protected his brain, his shield created the wall, and his sword did the killing. There was no wasted motion, no heroic flourish. It was the grim, relentless work of extermination. Titus, his first kill confirmed, felt a tremor in his hand but no triumph. His face was a mask of concentration, spattered with the blood of the man he had just killed. He was just a cog. His job was to hold the line, protect the man to his left, and kill the man in front of him. That was all. Centurion Macer moved behind the line, his own Gladius read, his voice a constant, calming bark of orders. "Hold the line! Brace! Thrust! Back in formation! Hold!" The Dacian wave, which had crashed with such fury, was now receding, leaving behind a horrifying debris field of its own, dead and dying. The wolfmen, who had laughed from the hills, were now scrambling back up the slopes, dragging their wounded, their confidence shattered, their prized weapons suddenly feeling clumsy and inadequate. They had met the iron serpent up close, and they had discovered it had fangs, short, sharp, and utterly deadly. High above the battlefield, on a promontory offering a commanding view of the pass at Tapai, a man watched the brutal spectacle unfold. He was not dressed in the ostentatious purple of a traditional emperor. He wore the simple leather cuirass and woolen cloak of a general officer. His face was weathered, etched with the lines of a life spent in the field, not in the marble halls of the Palatine Hill. This was Marcus Ulpius Traianus, the emperor, and he was precisely where he belonged, with his men. He stood beside his Praetorian prefect, Tiberius Claudius Livianus, his knuckles resting on the gilded eagle head of his command baton. He did not flinch at the screams that drifted up from the valley floor. He did not exult in the sight of the retreating Dacians. His gaze was analytical, cold, like a master craftsman examining his work. Every element of the scene below was a testament to a philosophy he had championed his entire career. He saw the pila rain down, a perfect volley. He noted the precise moment the line absorbed the Dacian charge, the scooter holding firm against the wild swings of the faxes. He watched, with a grim nod of approval, as the cohorts executed the shield punch and thrust, the deadly rhythm of the Gladius turning the tide in seconds. This was not the chaotic brawl the Dacians had sought. This was a dissection. "They underestimated the system, Livianus," Trajan said, his voice a low baritone that carried easily over the din. "They see the individual soldier, the short sword, the simple helmet. They don't see the century, They don't see the cohort. They don't see the legion. Livianus nodded, his eyes fixed on the retreating enemy. They fight with passion, Imperator. We fight with geometry. Trajan allowed himself a thin smile. Passion breaks. Geometry holds. He had known this battle was coming. Decebalus was a clever and proud king. He would never allow the legions to march uncontested through his homeland. He would choose the ground, a place like Tape, where the terrain favored his ferocious warriors. But Decebalus, for all his cunning, had made the fundamental mistake of all of Rome's barbarian foes. He believed that courage alone could win a war. Trajan knew better. Courage was a component, a vital one, but it was useless without discipline. It was discipline that kept Titus from breaking when the giant Zalmox swung his terrifying blade at his head. It was discipline that made him step back in unison with his comrades. And it was discipline that guided his hand in a short, economical thrust rather than a wild, panicked swing. The emperor watched as the Roman line, stained with the blood of its enemies, did not break formation to give chase. Chasing a barbarian army into the woods was a fool's errand, a lesson learned in the Teutoburg forest a century before. Instead, the horns blew again. The ranks reformed. The wounded were pulled back. The dead were accounted for. The machine reset itself, ready for the next wave, or the next order. It was this ability to absorb a blow, inflict devastating damage, and immediately return to a state of perfect order that made the legion invincible.